Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of Epic Fantasy Romance, here with my first cup of coffee. So good. Today is, say it with me, Friday! Woo, 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 woo. July 8th. Exciting day here in the Kennedy household because I am getting my new fountain installed. Ding, ding, ding. Uh, it is, they're coming at 9. I don't know why I say it this way. I I do know why. I am it feels fraught to me, and in a ridiculous way, considering that this is something that I have wanted for 10 years and saved up my money for, and is an expensive addition, but also value add to the landscape. So when I start feeling like this is a silly thing to spend money on, David reassures me. He says that I always have, he's very sweet to me. He says that I have really good taste and that I'm always very good about adding stuff that improves the value. Plus, it will make us happy. It feels a little fraught in that, I don't know, I was talking to my friend Kelly about this. She's in town for one more day. And I talked to David about it. Um, there's just like all this stuff about can we get the equipment into the spot? And, like I put down the deposit on this 6 weeks ago, and it's been kind of a pain to get them to come and actually install the thing. And I don't know, they're just kind of cantankerous about can they get to the spot, and I did the call before you dig stuff. We did the measuring, it all should be fine. But I think I'm doing the thing where, and I hate that this bothers me, but I don't want to deal with it's kind of like the construction guys thing, that I don't want to deal with the look here, little lady attitude. And I've like been pre-stressing about it. Why do I care if they try to pull this shit on me? I don't know. And Kelly pointed out that's really not good customer service that I'm feeling this way. And she's absolutely right. And David says he'll handle it for me because he does speak construction guy. So hopefully, cross your fingers for me that it's. I want this. I wish it could be just fun and not stressful. And maybe it will be. It could be that I'm totally overthinking this, which it would not be the first time, right? So, um, dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I'll be happy when it's in. I just want it there. Want it to be done. Um, Maybe if I were more naturally inclined to be a diva, it would be better. Where I could just be like, fucking put it where I want it. Be the princess they imagine me to be. Um, Again, I'm overthinking. So it's interesting because been thinking more about how much tail sniffing there is in the industry, and that's what I call it. And it was kind of amusing. I used that phrase recently with somebody, and they thought that I was like, they're like, that's such a great way to put it. That's I've been calling it that since the very very beginning, and my friend and I came up with it when we were newbie writers, and we would go to these writing events in our small town of Laramie, Wyoming, and everybody there. I mean, a lot of people already knew each other, but the people who didn't know each other would all of the conversations would be like, and what do you write? And where have you been published? And you have to do that. You have to like draw your mouth down and talk like that. Um, and we started calling it tail sniffing because it was like when the writers would first meet each other, they all did go around sniffing each other's butts to figure out who's the most alpha. And and it persists to this day. And I see it happen. It's changed right since then because that was the early 90s and self-publishing was not a thing. I think when we first started, I remember when I was in a crit group that came after this, and I remember one of the gals telling us about the fabulous new website called Amazon where you could buy any book you wanted. Uh, so not only was self-publishing not really a thing, unless somebody like, I don't know, went to Kinko's and ran off 100 copies of their book and tried to get people to buy it. But it was very. There wasn't even really much in the way of digital reading yet. It was, bookstores was where it was at. And it was all print and newsstands. And now a lot of the tail sniffing involves, like, are you traditionally published? Are you self published? And and there are people in, I think romance doesn't do this as much. There are people in the science fiction and fantasy community that are heavily invested in being the curators of what is real science fiction and fantasy, what is good science fiction and fantasy, what is not good, what is vetted, who's important, who is not. And maybe this is a people are gonna people thing. Uh, and there's a whole lot of the awards community is really invested in deciding who gets the awards, who should be lauded. And in some ways, it's a response to the fact that some books are very popular with readers and others are not. But there's this dichotomy between the books that are popularly read and the books that are considered award worthy. And there is a Venn diagram overlap of books that are award worthy and that are read by many people. But it's it, the and well let me sorry, I'm thinking as I speak, which is never a good thing. Um there's also, like that there's still the idea that if you're traditionally published, that your books are inherently better. And it's very difficult to get people to read and nominate self-published books for awards unless those awards are specifically for indie books. And so, like with Nebula Awards, we have discussed creating an award category for self-published books. But there's also a feeling of ghettoizing self-publishing that way, right? That separate it out. Um, and I've considered pushing for it, and then can't decide if I really care that much because, in some ways, I could get in trouble for saying that. Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Well, I'll say this: that that do awards contribute to sales is the eternal question. And I have been interviewed on this topic before because when The Pages of the Mind won the Rita Award, people asked me if I thought that made a difference to the book sales. And the thing is I think it made a difference, yes. Um, there was a lot of promo that that book got because of that. And a lot of people are aware of that book. I see it brought up frequently. Maybe not more than other books, but definitely a lot of people read it for that reason. Um, it's not my highest earning book. And there are many people who will say that that is the only marker that matters, right? That's the only part that matters, is whether or not you spend the money, whether or not the book earns the money. And if you're making a living as a writer, that is the bottom line. I mean, you do care most, in a way, about which ones are going to, keep the lights on and pay the mortgage. And one of the things that happens a whole lot in the indie circles and with the self-publishing writers is that they will become, to some extent, extremely focused on money. Some of them being so intent on marketing and earning money that they say that they don't care about anything else. Some of them even don't care about, like, craft and that sort of thing, with the whole idea of the minimum viable product. And that's a subset for sure. So it's like, but sometimes I think we comfort ourselves with that, because I was in a conversation with someone who I think regards me as an upstart, as not a real fantasy writer. And I've talked about this before, that there's a section of the science fiction and fantasy writing community who believes that I do not write fantasy because there's romance in it, in which the romance is the antimatter that cancels out all of the fantasy. And even some of my friends sometimes, who are more on the literary fantasy side of things, um, will suggest that I write, oh, well, you could write a book more like this. It's like, yes, but I don't want to. And I think that, and I feel it in myself, like when I am with this person who kind of considers me an upstart and not a real fantasy writer, I think to myself, well, yes, but I'm making more money than he is, which I happen to know that I make more money from my writing than he does, despite his storied career. And it is a comfort to me, because it's like, yes, but I have I don't know, a marketable product, right? So we tell ourselves these things, to, uh, I don't know, balance out the various aspects of success. I have a friend who talked about, like, that we have different goalposts. Short fiction writers tend to get very caught up in being published in particular publications because it confers a certain honor. Um, but it's also very, very difficult to make a living as a writer of short fiction, because you just can't make the money at it, right? Not enough, not consistently. Um, so then those people will comfort themselves with, well, I may not be making as much money as X, but I get these awards and I have this reputation, my contribution to the canon. And if you're very good, you can get your short fiction put together into a collection and sell the collection. So I'm not sure how I got on this or exactly where I'm going with it. It's, I think this is tied in with in my head, with the dealing with the construction guys and dealing with the um, self appointed curators of the genre, in that they both want, and maybe it's not fair to say that they want this, but they both operate by keeping me off balance. or attempting to keep me off balance, right? To so that I will think that their opinion, what they want, is more important than what I want. And I come back to that line from by Eleanor Roosevelt, which I think is really important, where she says, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission." And I do think that that is critical, and it can be very difficult in the moment because people who throw their weight around in this way, and I should qualify that, like the construction guy who's coming, I think is the owner of the business. I don't really know, because it was a woman who sold me the fountain, and she just refers to John. And it's just kind of funny how they run the business. And she says, "Well, John says," and, "Well, John will." And it's like, so who is John? John has gained this sort of semi-mythical status in my head, right? And she's very concerned from the very beginning. She's been very concerned about John being upset. And so maybe that's like transferred to me. It's like, oh, well, we don't want to upset John. Um, the other thing, I know I'm circling between these two topics. It's part of the brand here at First Cup of Coffee. I did ask them to come out and look at the site. I said, when, I work from home, I'm here all the time. Somebody's out in our neighborhood, stop by and look and see what you think. And she said, "Oh, no, no, that won't be necessary. John doesn't need to do that." Well, we'll see what John thinks when John gets here, which is better for me to have that snarky attitude. Um, so, yeah, there's this I can't be made to feel like my books are less important than someone else's books unless I agree to that. Um, but it can be difficult sometimes, where it's the self-appointed curators rely very heavily on getting us to believe that their opinion is correct and valid and important. And do we think that? I don't know. This particular person, I've read some of their work, and it's not the kind of fantasy I like. And I could go into why I don't like it, but I feel like that's unfair. It's not my cup of tea. But and I could even go so far as to say that I think it's not good. But that's me, right? That's my opinion. It's oops, hang on. Got something in my eye there. It's it's all the various kinds of gatekeeping. And one way that people reassure themselves that what they're writing is good and valid and worthy of respect is to find other stuff that they say is not as good. And I think it's hard when you've been a writer for a long time too, and you see the industry changing. You see other stuff becoming important to people for whatever reason. And you're throwing out there, well, but this is why the old school thing is better. This is why this is the gold standard, and these whippersnappers today don't know what they're doing. So I know this is something I circle a lot. Maybe it's something that I don't know. Is it me? Maybe it's just me, uh, or maybe it's a human thing. Where you're always kind of looking at. I don't know. Maybe we're always tail sniffing, right? Who's got the um, who's got the sexiest anal glands this week? To extend the analogy rather uncomfortably. So I'm almost out of time, so I won't go into. I should make a note though, because I do want to talk uh, about some recent cases of plagiarism by very highfalutin authors, and I think that this is related, because I think that sometimes authors who have a certain reputation to maintain end up like borrowing generously from other work in order to sustain that, I don't know, prestige. Prestige is a thing, right? You can't put dollars on it, but having prestige does help sell books. Um, it's an interesting thing, right? So, all right, well, I'm going to go and work on writing, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you all on Monday. You all take care. Bye bye.